My name is Professor Aditya Singh, and I'm the director of the Athena School of Management, one of India's most exclusive business schools located in Powai in Mumbai, in India. A bit of a background, like a lot of other directors, pursued my MBA, following which I worked with IBM, the Tata Group, and with Kotak in India. Then I did my advanced MBA, the ADP, from the Wharton School in the US, after which I became a professor for impact leadership and differential thinking and a director at the Athena School of Management. I currently sit as a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts, the Royal Asiatic Society, and the Royal Anthropological Institute, all three in London in UK. I serve on the advisory board for several technology companies, luxury companies, and art companies across the world in France, Germany, Canada, Brazil, so on and so forth. I teach in universities and business schools in North America, South America, and Europe. And I have the good fortune of being a global speaker at the World Economic Forum in Davos and the Horasis conferences and so on and so forth. Mindset is something which has been constantly evolving over the past few years. A couple of decades ago, if you asked a student what do they want to do, they either wanted a government job or want to be a self-employed professional like a doctor or a lawyer, or do an MBA with the express purpose of entering the corporate sector, hopefully a multinational corporation, and climb up its ladders for a lifelong employment over there. What we've seen over the past 2 decades are two or three things. The first is the absolute opening up of the Indian economies, which makes people actually understand what's happening all over the world from a global perspective. Of course, that's been aided by a very upwardly mobile and traveling young Indian who travel all across the world. Social media, of course, plays a very major part over there, because they see what's happening all across the world. That's the second part. The third part, of course, is this boom in entrepreneurship, which we've seen in India in the past 10 years. As you know, we now have unicorns coming up almost every week. India has the largest number of unicorns after the United States. So that's given that increase in the belief of young MBA aspirants in India that they may choose to go for a corporate career, but they may also become entrepreneurs, they may also become innovators. And that entire philosophy, which was there a few decades ago, that I wanted an MBA only to get a job, has gradually evolved. And we see that in Athena itself, for example, if you ask, almost 60% of a class size and cohort now says, I want to become an entrepreneur sooner or later. I don't merely want to get a job. I want to be able to create jobs and opportunities for Indians and across the world. Absolutely. As they say, necessity is the mother of all invention in the end, isn't it? We are a nation of 1.5 billion here or there, 750 million young Indians below the age of 25. And that figure is also going to grow for at least for the next decade. The fact of the matter is, you can't provide jobs to 750 million young Indians. It's not possible. Unless they're entrepreneurial, until they create value systems on their own, there's only so much that the government or the corporate sector can do. But I'll just take a step back. Look at all those unicorns, which are valued at $1 billion or higher in India, even in the past 12 to 18 months. They've all created wonderful opportunities, for investors who got returns on the money, for consumers by giving great solutions to them, to other stakeholders, but most importantly for fellow young Indians by giving them opportunities to go up in new sectors, giving them ESOPs, which makes them owners, part owners of the enterprise, and making them feel that yes, they have a say in their own destiny and future. So if you ask me, the modern India which we see now in the past 10 years, culminating into what this is now and flowing forward, definitely gives a podium for innovations, entrepreneurs, and people who dare to dream. I think this is more of a legacy issue. Traditionally, it was observed, or it was felt and perceived to some extent, this was an extension of what they had seen in the higher education by way of undergrads, bachelors, and masters, that when you studied abroad, even in an MBA, it was absolutely practical. You had an applied, philosophy that came and you applied knowledge rather than just learning it theoretically, had a global network of cohorts and opportunities across the world, which is quite correct. That's quite there. At the same time, there was this perception that MBAs in India are more theoretical in nature, not to apply, more from learning by rote, and it creates you as a person who can take perhaps orders rather than strategize and execute. That's there. And finally, the network they felt was very, very constrained. These are legacy issues. While I think it's very, very honest, it's not that it's gone away to a large extent. There is a whole new breed of business schools, such as Athena School of Management in Bombay, which is built on the nature of applied knowledge, of experiential thinking, of international exposure, of global connections, of global networks, and making our learners feel that you don't come to a business school to study. You come to a business school to learn. And studying and learning are two very, very different things in the end. I think it depends on who you're looking at. India is a very has a large population. We have thousands of business schools. Frankly speaking, nobody exactly knows how many business schools we have in the thousands. Someone says 3,000, someone says 4,000, someone says 5,000, and that's a problem because the entire definition of a business school or a management, a college or a college just teaches a master's in management is very fungible and fluid. All right. Having said that, I think it's very important for us to understand that business schools in India are becoming more global. I think, no doubt about it. I think the first major move was from the Indian School of Business, which started almost 2 decades ago, and they set the benchmark. And now again, there's an entire generation and types of business schools that are coming up in India, such as Athena, which focus on global exposure because you're not an island in the end, right? And we keep telling people that the age of competitive advantage is over. Your resources are finite. Global warming is coming. Geopolitical challenges after a 30-year hiatus and break are back in bang. I mean, you're in Europe, you can see what's happening on that side, all right? What that means is that if you talk about traditional economics, it always talks about resources. The problem with traditional economics is it doesn't count the one major constraint which is there in resources, which is time. And we are running out of time. So unless you collaborate and work together, you can't make true impact. So that's the philosophy of what we follow at Athena. We believe that to make actual true impact, you have to combine your resources, and that can only be done at a global level. Hence, the international internships. My students end up going to intern, for example, in the Netherlands, for example, in Amsterdam, Rotterdam, in a marine in an environmental engineering company or a robotics company, or they go to France to intern in a luxury company, or they go to Italy. So that gives you global exposure. You end up going to international exchanges, be it in Canada, be it in Singapore, be it in Germany, and be it in the US. And you do global interaction and projects with counterpart students in environment, in sustainability, in digital transformation, with counterpart students from the UK, for example, from Finland, from Romania, from Canada, from Switzerland. That's what gives you that difference. That's what gives you a true global exposure, the way you immerse yourself as a global citizen. And perhaps one manifestation of that is the fact that we've again, in 2021, we were the only Indian business school to win the AMBA Excellence Awards, the only Indian business school to win it, which was we are kind of proud of that, and we should be, I reckon. And this year again, we've been nominated as a finalist for the AMBA Excellence Award, which makes us the only Indian business school in history to be nominated thrice in a row. So that again is a manifestation that if a school follows an international and global path, you are recognized and there are rewards to be had, but it's not an easy path to follow. You have to be very clear in your definition of what you want to do. So I'll venture for and try to give you this by way of two different examples. The first is, of course, as all men, I love automobiles. All right. So I'll say what you're talking about. These are legacy brands. These are for example, like a Mercedes or a BMW or an Audi or a Lexus. Great luxury brands, safe, nice to look at, cost a packet of money, and they'll get you to a destination. But frankly speaking, they're not exciting. They're not actually looking at challenging the boundaries and parameters of status quo. They're very happy where they are. Athena is more akin to a Maserati, mysterious, dangerous. You really don't know what's lurking under that engine, right? In that engine, always ready to push the boundaries of what's possible and what is not possible. And I think that's very important because in today's world, you need to be agile, you need to be flexible, you need to be nimble, you need to be fast, because that's how the world is. Today, when you have global innovations in business and technology coming every 3 months, you can't sit down and rest on your laurels and say, I'm going to upgrade my syllabus or change my syllabus every 2 years. So at Athena, where we used to do this once every 6 months, we are now looking at reworking syllabuses, reworking courses, getting in new stuff into our programs every quarter, every 3 months, because that's how fast the world is evolving. And sometimes, I must tell you, we even think that is too slow. You're putting me in a difficult position because I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't. So I'll try to play a role which I'm not too comfortable, which is that of being politically correct. I think the IIMs are a great manifestation of what is possible in an India of yesterday, where there was a resource constraint. If you delve into the IIMs, each of them were created, at least ABC. Let's not get into the other ones. ABC were helped with international aid and support to different top leading business schools across the world. And they were created in a time when perhaps India as a country was slightly unsure of itself, of its place in the world. And I think they have done a wonderful job. The fact of the matter is, for the longest time, you only had a handful of business schools in India. You had the three IIMs, you had XLRI, and you had a couple of others. So a student didn't have too much of choice. If you wanted to do an MBA, you went to one of these 6 or 7 options which were there. Ipso facto, all the senior people in the corporate sector, if you come 30 years later, will be from these IIMs, so on and so forth. And hence, they were the only people who were able to be mobile internationally. But if you remember, there was a very interesting route which was followed at that time. You had big MNCs in India, and the idea was you would get hired locally by an MNC, and then if you by MNC mean a multinational corporation, and if you do well in your role over there, then perhaps you are put into the global cadre and you move forward and beyond. I think that entire step has got skipped now. You don't have to do that anymore. We know we don't have to do that anymore. Our students work in top companies, in startups and entrepreneurs across the world. And one of the major reasons this happened, a lot of bad things may happen with COVID. Today, it doesn't matter whether I am in New York or New Delhi, New Bombay or New Jersey. What matters is my talent and my skills, because technology is a great enabler. Right? And we've seen that. We've had students who worked with technology companies in the internships in the San Francisco Bay Areas. Other students have worked with a venture capital firm based of France and Portugal. And other British students have worked in sub-Saharan Africa, in Senegal, in Ghana, in Botswana, helping young African lady entrepreneurs become successful with their skills and their strategy. This is the brave new world. And again, I come back to my previous answer, which was, you've got to be fast, you've got to be flexible, you've got to be agile, you've got to be nimble. Because if you're not that, you don't stand a chance. And I think that's perhaps something which some of the larger, older legacy Indian business schools had not quite as of yet got their grasp on, which a younger school like us, being a Maserati and a Versace, like I said, obviously we play this, we enjoy this, we thrive in this. I think that's a wonderful question. So at Athena in 2020, we took a call. We're going to look at 4 major focus areas. These are as follows. The first one is circularity and sustainability as manifested by ESG, now as we call it. A digital transformation, both from an innovation and entrepreneurship perspective. Stakeholder leadership and management versus shareholder leadership and management. And internationalization and collaboration. We believe each of these axis of growth for us is critical, not only from an internal perspective, but from a larger ecosystem and stakeholder perspective. To address that, today Athena works a lot globally on sustainability with partner schools across the world. Our students do a tremendous amount of work with partner students across the world. In fact, we've had student delegations who've come from countries such as Switzerland to visit us over here to work on sustainability together, which is there on social media if you want to. It's there. It's not an option. It's not a choice. I think the biggest problem, sustainability, and largely, from an ESG perspective, a lot of us think of it as a social imperative. It's not. It's a business imperative. If you don't have a planet, if you don't have rainfall, if you don't have food, if you don't have water, what good is all the millions and billions in profits that you make? It's not worth a single, even the paper it's printed on. And that's what we've got to understand. This is not an option. It is now a way of life. We create the leaders of tomorrow. So we've got to make sure we inculcate these values and these learnings in our students today who will be the leaders of tomorrow. We certainly hope so. And that's why we have alliances and networks in very different ways. Because I think one size doesn't fit all. So we have international exchanges, we have faculty and research agreements. We of course again have faculty exchanges. You have situations when the students come in for group exchanges and study visits, and of course what we call the highest level of relationships is when we talk about our joint programs. So, for example, Athena offers a very exclusive and very unique Masters in Global Luxury and Brand Management in partnership with the Rennes School of Business in France, which is again an FT top 100, top 50 ranked school, triple accredited, triple crowned. What that means, of course, is the student spends the first year learning luxury in Mumbai, which is the luxury capital of India, and year two they go to Rennes near Paris, which is the luxury capital of the world, to learn, about luxury. And at the end of the program, they end up getting multiple internships, and they actually work for a couple of years at least in Paris in the luxury sector. So that's one solution. What else do? We have an alliance with the State University of New York in Albany, which can either be an MBA track in year two or an MS track in year two in cybersecurity, and hopefully very soon in analytics. Again, very cutting edge, career-centric, skill-centric programs. We again have an alliance with the IMT Business School, top 10 business school in France, in international management, a master's program there. We also, along with Canam, and again in Paris, which is actually a 250-year-old institution, are looking at offering programs which are masters in digital marketing or masters in project management. And we have a few more up alley, which hopefully we're going to announce very, very soon. We believe, as I said before, collaboration and collaborative advantage is the way to go forward. So yes, in many ways, I think Athena has become a doorway, or rather a passage for global exposure and global opportunities to students from India. And we hope that we also become a passage the other way around, where international students also get an exposure into what's happening in perhaps which is the fastest growing economy in the world, third largest by PPP, fifth largest now by GDP, and of course 1.5 billion people with a very diverse culture, where every 100 kilometers, your food, your language, your dressing, your culture, your festival, everything changes. What else can you ask? Unity and diversity, if you want it. That's India for you. And that's the power that you bring to the world.